Hey everyone, it's Sarah G. We're gonna get into it. It is episode 6. Let's go. Episode of GenZGab. Wow. Do a quick little acknowledgement just because I think it should be said, but because I also know that this isn't not the best person to be speaking on this, but I will say that during this month of June, it is Indigenous People Heritage Month as well as Pride. So please hold space for anybody that should be speaking on this. I am still learning about allyship and all that stuff, as well as making sure that maybe I don't overstep, like I've said in the past, and a lot of things that I want to be an advocate, all that, and try. So yeah, moving on from that, this week's Monday mood is Beauty School Dropout. If you've heard of them, great. I hope you've listened to all their new songs. I find them very relatable. If you know me, actually, I know some of them for years-ish, like more just internet, whatever. But they are amazing. You should give a follow to all of them, as well as their personal accounts, because Cole, Bardo, and Brett set up, because I always get his last name confused anytime I'm on it, because he does, like, his last name's like Burnt or Brent, whatever, but he actually is dating the girl who sings Overwhelmed. It's pretty cool, Royal and the Serpent. I'm kind of in this like weird position where I kind of know of these people, but I don't think they know me super well. But yeah, give all of them a good check out. Their music is super relatable. So yeah, there's that, as well as, I've mentioned Brooke, but her songs are blowing up. And anyone from her American Song Contest, you should give a lot of support to. Alexa won, if you didn't hear that, and you should check out all her singles, etc. We're just moving along, marching on. Today's setup is just about like the same thing as usual, besides like the trends that are going on. I've noticed a lot lately that the about damn time is never gonna end, which I love that because I feel it in my core. But at the same time, I'm not the biggest dancer, so I have to always figure out whatever. And lately I've been dealing with the algorithm like it's been better. It's because I'm doing still duets, but I'm making them more my own, like throwing it back to our childhood, right? So like I joke about Fairly Odd Parents, which is great because it's back on Netflix. iCarly, Drake and Josh, Wizards of Waverly Place, Hannah Montana. Like I've made jokes, but lately I've been doing more of the duets for or reactions for Nickelodeon shows. I don't know why, but they make it more. I think with the reboots, they make it a little bit more interesting, understandable, if you will. But yeah, I just kind of, every time I think about this, I just can't get over how better it is that they can swear on Paramount Plus now, especially in iCarly. I think just a lot of the like, how did this go over our heads as a kid, and the weirdos that were behind some of the camera work, which that being said, can you really blame anyone for any of it? Besides the people who really are at hand. But if you think about it, you're trying to create kids' TV shows, minus like all the creepiness that some people had, which is, beyond disgusting and should not have been allowed. But it goes to show different moments and different lights of what's going on, right? So there we are, just learning about everything as we get older. And I've actually found, like, again, Carly Shay is pretty relatable in the senses of that a little bit different. Her whole start, she kind of kicked it off, and then now she's going back and reimagining, redefining. But what I mean by the fact that I can handle, like, it's better now that they can actually fully swear than like fake the words. Because are you watching those TV shows from when you're young and you like have those inappropriate or whatever jokes go over your head or different words for different things? like chiz and all that stuff. I'm thinking, is it better just to say like you shit repeat, or you did number one or two? Like, it could have been that, like, they came up with new words, and then I actually remember saying that, and it's, like, hysterical, but, like, the fact of the matter is, I don't understand. Like, I do understand. You don't sound like a lady if you do that. Okay, well, okay, skunk bag was one of the words that they used early on in iCarly, so we're gonna, they mentioned panties later in, like, season 4, like with Sam's mom. So I'm sorry. Like, just, the different levels of what they said or got away with versus what they didn't. I mean, if any one of them who's on TikTok, especially Avon Yoga and Leon Thomas, I've got so many questions for you. Not that you'd listen to this, but Victorious is very questionable in a lot of ways that I could mention that, and I don't see a reboot happening in the future, which is okay. By the way, Leon, you are still killing it in the music world. And I also know that Matt Bennett's on TikTok. I'm sorry, Matt. I did exclude you. Very, like, Robbie-like moment. My God, why did I just do that? Who knows? So it's very interesting just how all of that works together. But it's so weird because, I follow Selena Gomez. I watch her on Only Murders in the Building, and I still think she is like one of the most fantastic people. She's a mood too, who just kind of like marches on with all her lupus stuff, like I mentioned, as well as she still kind of just lives her life, doesn't give a fuck attitude, and very open and honest about a lot of things. I mean, I could say there's a few, like, lots of them are going with that, and I just can't say how much I am happy with that and how it makes me even more like, okay, I'm still 5 years younger than you, pretty much. But I'm working through this and I'm still not quite sure about my life, but at least you have your life a little bit more together. So we're there. Um, but yeah, it's just been fun. I still love the I Hear Voices podcast with, again, Will Friedle and Chrissy Carlson Romano. I do like an insight and all that. Plus, I, again, started the voiceover journey and by training more. And the fact that I actually get to be fortunate enough to be in the program that trained by some of the best in the names and etc are very much lining up with the people from I Hear Voices, and it's just so interesting to see that parallel. The fact of the matter is that I couldn't even get into the beginning of how fortunate and how much I'm learning, especially for even with the podcasting, because it's not like I'm not just doing, I'm doing my own voice, but as you can see, maybe there's some animation and whatnot that goes with it. The best piece of advice I keep learning, besides the Welker, like I mentioned, which is Frank Welker, the Scooby-Doo, it's, you're never aware of how much you're capable of because, like, for your whole life, you've been tethered and whatnot. So I think that's good because here's the thing. Again, I'm going to give a spiel and whatever about my whole thing with, I followed the perfect, like, timeline road, whatever. I got my degree, then I went and got my master's, and then I thought, okay, I can figure out job besides the COVID pandemic hitting, whatever. I thought, like, I'd have an extra nest and etc., and that I'd be making a lot of money. Well, I think in a way, though, as well as COVID, it's been helping me at least find my niche and where I'm going. I'm still working on everything and finding myself, but I think, if anything, the fact that I've wanted to do a podcast forever and wasn't really sure where to start, I think that has made all the difference to just be here, be present, and just figure out your next step, and hopefully we can all learn together. Yeah, redundant. Yep, there it is, one of the words. And yeah, so if anybody is pulling a Robin Scherbatsky moment from How I Met Your Mother, and yes, I watched it mostly when it was reruns, but whatever. But yeah, there were the moments again. You know. But I can't even begin to imagine how fortunate I've been in a lot of aspects. A lot of days I feel some apathy, which I think is completely normal, like I've talked about. But apathy, like I'm not going on the same tracks or whatever. And again, I go through like great weeks or so, and then all of a sudden it hits me again. And because I've been kind of the little odd one in my family, besides just being the girl smack in the middle, like I've mentioned multiple times. But the fact is, my brothers are accountants, engineers. My parents are finances and accounting. It's like I have the creativity. Like everyone kind of just did the thing that they were more supposed to do, or that. I mean, I shouldn't say supposed to because they actually enjoy it, but I'm doing what I enjoy doing, and I actually have to have my mom remind me that I'm doing something that I enjoy doing, because I think a lot of the times I get caught up, and that's just what our society is caught up in. Money, 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 now, Mr. Krabs feeling it. But as you can tell with how my dynamics are, etc., and hyperfixations and whatnot, that's not me. Working 9 to 5 is not for me. I mean, wearing a Simpson shirt, I'm very into pop culture. I have to ride that ride anytime we go to Universal. So I just needed to think for a second because, you get lost in space too. But I can't wait to watch a lot of these upcoming films, like they've been said. And somebody pointed out on TikTok recently that we're in the 80s again, kind of in a weird way, because Top Gun Maverick is coming out. Stranger Things season 4 came out, and it's in the mid 80s. And by the way, those kids, every time I see them, I'm like, and it's also really weird because I didn't think about this at the past, but I grew up watching so many kid actors, whatever, and people are like, the success of Stranger Things kids, like they'll never be normal. And I feel like they're a little more grounded from what I've seen, and that's because more people are aware. Plus, Stranger Things is a Netflix show, and they never had, I'm not saying that they haven't had, and trust me, they've had criticism on, but it's not like the need to be goody angel face like Disney and Nick, where whatever. I don't know. It just, there's something different about it, if that makes sense. And I'm trying not to overword or whatever, because I know that can be a little bit, we don't know what's actually happening behind, obviously, the curtain. And don't get me started on the Drake stuff with Millie Bobby Brown, but she carries herself so well. She reminds me so much of Emma Watson, and I think people have said that. And it's not just because they're British, but it's like they have that female strength and empowerment that I think is very important. They articulate well. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Millie Bobby Brown, is definitely the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, more Emma Watson. And I'm kind of older. So, like I said, I'm older Gen Z, but I see them both and I work both and I understand them both. But I think Emma Watson's like that. Like, it's the older thing goes on because Emma Watson is like 7 years older than me. So I think that's where, you grow up kind of watching and wanting that, like, kind of big sister energy, like I've joked about. But yeah, so it's all good. And she's really talented. All of them are. I mean, Noah Schnapp, Hubie Halloween, all that. I hope I pronounced that right. I try really hard with the Sage last names. I mean, my mom's side's partially German, so if I don't get that right, then it's just like my grandpa is spinning in his grave and swearing in German right now, I bet, right? As I can't pronounce it correctly, but we're also French, so it's not like I could pronounce that correctly no matter how hard I try. And I joke about this all the time because I'm also looking to be a dual citizen, Luxembourg, and they speak 3 languages, and I'm trying to learn French because it's the closest to where I majored in Spanish. But there's a lot going on with the different accents and whatever. But the more that I read with French and German, like they have a lot of the same kind of like SCHs going on, but it's like the way that it's just more fluidly pronounced, like more smooth instead of like down like the hammer. So that's all. If anyone has more tips and tricks, I've been doing the online stuff and the Duolingo, whatever. But if anybody has a comment, please drop it below on what's the best way to do that, because I am kind of stuck here, overwhelming. I put myself in these stressors, whatever. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm like a person that's chronically stressed, and I'm pointing at myself like this because everything I do is me, when it's describing like negative attributes. Okay, just back down wood. But yeah, that's kind of all I can say. And I've realized that the more I begin to focus on all these things, the easier it is to almost talk. Because, like I said, I was really tired last week. I was really tired the week before. I've been just trying to make sure that I don't, sound over the top or whatever, which I guess I do sound, because, I talk super, super fast, supersonic speed. Yeah, just, and I meant, which again, I've probably mentioned few times. I'm just laughing at myself because that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to give yourself some love. If you're ever on TikTok live and doing that, that's okay to give yourself some love. Self-love is the best kind of love. Do you remember the whole Jackie Burkhart scene, like Mila Kunis did amazing, where she finally just told Hyde and Kelso, I choose myself. Like, who do I love most? And it's myself. If I could run across and hug myself and walk into the sunset or whatever, I do that. And at first, it was like kind of funny and selfish, but the older I get and the more I understand about life, just dead on. Dead frickin' on. That, and I also can see that being like a meme of 2022, as well as Prince Louis. I don't want to talk about kids too much because whatever, and it's not like he again asked for her to be in the spotlight. That's just kind of where he got born. And people talking about memes of 2022, his reaction to the airplanes flying over, which again, he's 4. He wasn't a fan of the gunshot or which that's a different thing we'll get into. I have on my bonus episode gun stuff. But he hates the airplane and the military stuff because they're loud noises. I get that. And just watching instead the queen like smile at him and like everyone's like he's gonna get a talking to. I'm like maybe he will, but it also looked like a genuine moment. Like again, I'm not trying to be obsessed or analyze obviously too much, but the way that it looked like a very understanding moment, and the fact that Princess Charlotte like 2 years ago already had her meme moment, and George is just standing there like, who are these people? I'm just gonna pretend that I don't know them, even though it's your whole entire family there. But it clearly shows like the progression from oldest to youngest, if you didn't already notice that, because I think that that's the funniest part of it all. That he's like super intrigued for a second on what's going on. He's watching his mom, he's watching Nana, grandma, whatever, and then boom, in comes one of the jets, and he's like, like, how did I get here? When did I get here? I didn't sign up to see Top Gun. Which kind of, I think I was mentioning this earlier that I was going to get into, but I didn't quite, which again is always that ADHD thought process because you're trying to stay on topic without staying on and find your notes, whatever, and keep a good flow. So I'm just going back to that. But as I mentioned, the whole 80s Top Gun, people were talking about Stranger Things and how Top Gun Maverick is basically like we're back in the 80s again because of the music, etc. And the fact of the matter is that maybe we do need kind of that blockbustery summer after the years that we've had, but I don't really know. One thing I will say is that I've noticed that kind of in a weird way, which I think other people have brought up this parallel, but I don't know too much more than that, is that the Stranger kids are a little bit like the Harry Potter kids, and I can kind of see that in the sense that, yeah, they're thrown into fame, etc., and that they might never be normal, but I'd say a lot of them have. And again, I don't know these kids. I don't know too much about realistically what's happened, but they're very outspoken and very articulate. They seem really well-rounded kids and pretty. I don't want to use the word normal because I kind of, again, what is normal in this world, you know? But I hope they just give me a lot of the vibe. I'm not saying that some of them haven't been in trouble, but a lot of them, as far as whatever, have been doing pretty well. So that's just the one thing that I hope. Just, they're very talented, well-spoken people. They just seem very, again, I hate using the word, but normal. So the repetitiveness goes on. I will move on. But I did read something recently, still going off of that 1980s kind of thing, but is that Kenny Loggins like had to fight for 30 years or something to get some of his credit on Danger Zone, because Danger Zone was such a big thing, but he wasn't, I think for them to be up for an Oscar, he had to give up like that he wrote part of that song or rewrote most of the song, because originally it wasn't the way that it was. And that's the music and arts industry, like everyone there has a place to put, as I keep learning. But the more that I read up, and then someone called him up recently and go, can we put Danger Zone into the Top Gun Maverick? And I loved reading the response. And again, I don't know too much, but it's not Top Gun without that. And that's totally true. I grew up with parents who were born in the late 60s, and my dad watched like A Few Good Men, Top Gun, all those great movies, and I've learned so much from all of that. And I basically can agree that it probably will be a cheesy remake, but you gotta watch it. Like, you have to see it, I think. If you've seen the first one, I feel like you kind of have to see the second one. And it's taken 35 years, 36 years to work through, which I guess is kind of why Miles Teller plays Goose's kid, but it's, yeah. Oof. But some people are like, Miles Teller should have played Elvis, and Austin Butler should have played Goose. And I just go back and forth, because here's the thing, I kind of have seen like where I could see both sides, and yes, but can I just say this? I think Miles Teller could have played both of them, but I get it that they come out the same way, but there's so many arguments to be made, and it's just not my battle to fight. I'll just go in, and I'm really interested to see, again, Val Kilmer's whole role, as people say. And it's just that I love how much stuff is coming out, especially for this movie. And everybody goes, we love the nostalgia, we don't like the nostalgia, whatever. But I think in this moment, it looks well produced, at least, so I'm gonna give it a shot. I don't know about the Elvis stuff so much, because just the more I keep learning and etc. Sorry, John Stamos, in the odd chance that John Stamos, aka Uncle Jesse, hears me talking about this, I am so deeply sorry, is all I'm going to say. Also, if you're listening, that's cool. But I only say that if any of them are listening. Honestly, if any of the full house cast is listening to this is cool. But yeah, I only mention that because of the Elvis reference. So I like you on Big Shots, if that helps. Okay. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon, but I just wanted to let you know all those things that are. I don't know about the Elvis stuff so much, because just the more I keep learning and etc. Sorry, John Stamos, in the odd chance that John Stamos, aka Uncle Jesse, hears me talking about this, I am so deeply sorry. But I only say that if any of them are listening. Honestly, if any of the full house cast is listening to this is cool. But yeah, I only mention that because of the Elvis reference. So I like you on Big Shots, if that helps. Okay. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon, but I just wanted to let you know all those things that are on my mind in pop culture world and what's going on. Oh, I even forgot about Jurassic World's final movie coming out, and that's really interesting. Someone said that it's Jurassic June the other day, and I don't quite get that, but then I suddenly realized that all of the Jurassic Park movies have mostly come out in June. I think Jurassic World comes out in July, or the last one does. It's going to be the last one to the end of the series. So I think that's kind of where we're at, but I'm going to just talk quickly about the whole Universal deal. But every time I go and say hi, I know it's like the 3D fake, like virtual reality, and that's what they're going for, but it makes me realize that I probably will not be going to watch the 3D version. I love virtual reality and all that stuff. I played the Jurassic Park game actually in the virtual reality at one point. Probably not my best idea. But yeah, that's kind of what I love about VR. You can feel like you're on a roller coaster and all that fun stuff. I have to actually figure out how to get back in because the password thing is kind of different. And I kept putting, I think, one of my brothers in, and that just, they didn't like that. It didn't do the whole thing like where it disabled you, which they do on your iPhone to the point where you're locked out for like 400 minutes or whatever after you don't get it for a certain number of time. But I'm glad I'm protected, but I just kind of wish they were numbers, numbers instead of symbols, because again, I make the joke, but my dyslexic brain can't do that. I don't know why. Everyone says to me, Sarah, you overcomplicate things. I try not to. I try to keep it simple, stupid, like Michael Scott said, and I know that that's actually a military phrase from the 60s, which I recently found out more, but it's true. Like Dwight saying that to Jim, etc., that makes sense. But every time I say to myself, I'm like, still can't do it. No matter how hard I try, still try to make it simple. And yet I still do the most. Why? I don't know. I do not, again, it's just how my brain works. It's like, I think the simplicity of it is also the very straightforward and typical way, the analytic way. And because I'm creative, I go in the other direction. I think back to my psychology class, senior year of high school. I did one freshman year of college, but this was senior year of high school where, they were asking us different questions and different ways to work through things. And again, my teacher always gave me a look like, he's like, that works. But again, it was never the logical or the realistic way. So I still got the points on the little quiz that it was, but it's just super funny because I leave people very questioned with a lot of the things that I've done. But every time, again, I keep mentioning this, but if you need good people to surround yourself with when you have moments like this, Elise Myers, Cheryl Texera, anxious actress, she shares a lot of stories. Kim Rhodes, the Sweet Life mom. There's just a lot of us. Like, I don't think, and Jack's right songs, like, I don't think I'd be a surviving human today with where I think about my stories. And then I think, oh my gosh, somebody else kind of has a similar situation. And guess what? We all have something like ADHD or anxiety or whatever. And that's where you remove the stigma and everything works out. And then when people go, what do you mean everything works out? It just works out, okay? Plus, then it's like where people start laughing and finding you entertaining in the oddest ways. And that's fine too, because here's the thing. Whenever you feel anxious, afraid, whatever, just remember, you're not typical. You're the entertaining ones. And then you're the ones that create and master life. Maybe our own unique way. I think we're all going through it, but yeah. Every time, again, I think about jobs, I get scared, I get overwhelmed, I get chatter like I am right now. And when people or family listen to it, it's like I don't want to have to censor myself, but I don't also want everyone to hear everything. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I keep saying this might not be for you, all the things that I talk about. Like, I love that people are trying to be supportive, but again, if you don't like it, don't listen to it. Like, this is where I was thinking about, again, Misfits. He was talking about if someone came after him because his lips were fuller, but he also got piercings and etc. But he just has naturally fuller lips. And he said trolls just come on here. Yeah, trolls are canceled everywhere else. Trolls are canceled everywhere else. That like TikTok is the only place that they're allowed left, and that's the only place people really listen to them. which just don't get me going on that. Because, that about wraps it up for this week. I hope that you enjoy it. Hit like, comment, subscribe, and look at my Patreon account, as well as follow on GenZGab podcast, Instagram, TikTok, and yep, have a great week. Happen soon. Bye.